Welcome back, Animal Science 1. We are going to talk about some goat breeds today. We're first going to talk about some dairy goats, and then we're going to look at some other types of goats that I want you to be familiar with. Now, for this one, yes, there are quite a few more breeds because with what we do and the fact that we have dairy goats and the fact that we show in the dairy goat world, I want you to be familiar with all the different types of dairy goats that are common in the United States. So, we're going to look at several different types of dairy goats. I'll tell you about some of the things that I know about each one of them. And then we'll look at some other types of goat breeds that are not necessarily dairy goat breeds. So the first one, this is obviously going to be my favorite here. This is the Oberhasli. And in fact, this is an old picture of Surprise, which we call her Dingy, from a long time ago, whenever she was still owned by the lady in Florida that we got her from. So this was Surprise in her youth, and you see her little tongue stuck out there. But the Oberhasli, we actually chose this breed because they are known for having a calm disposition and being easy to work with. Now, I know we got a couple that are difficult, but such is the livestock world. But for the most part, the Oberhasli is known for being a calm, demurred animal. They originated in Switzerland. Typically, they are going to be bay colored, which is that brown color, and they're going to have those black markings down their spine, on their ears, and on their tail. However, from time to time, you do have some thrown in there, like little Baby Ruth and Pepper, that are fully black. They're black all over. Those are called black bays. And it's basically like when you have a black sheep that's born. It's a recessive trait. It's not a normal thing. And to be honest, it's not really a desired thing. But we just happen to like black bays because they're different. So um, they are all going to be colored very similarly, except for the fact that some are going to be black versus the brown. But that normal bay color is what is going to be typical in the Oberhasli breed. So you've had a lot of opportunities to work with some Obers, and because they do have a calm disposition, they're a little easier to work with, and they work well on our high school campus. Another dairy breed that I really like, and wouldn't mind having some of, this is a very large breed of dairy goat. These are Saanens, and Saanens are going to be a large white breed. They're all white all over. They originated in Switzerland. They have a high milk production, and these also have got a calm disposition too. Whenever we first started working with the Cleveland County Fair, years and years ago, there were a couple of guys that came in with their Saanens, and they did milking demonstrations, and they were just the sweetest demeanored goats, and produce a lot of milk. And so, if I were to add any type of breed to what we have, Saanen would be a good choice because they are pretty easy to work with, and they are very large milk producers. A popular breed of dairy goat in the United States is the Alpine, and Alpines can be different colors. Um, I don't particularly have an affinity one way or another for Alpine. I'm kind of indifferent about those. Um, they are pretty hardy animals. They're not difficult to keep. They don't have a lot of health issues or anything like that. So they thrive in pretty much any climate. They did originate in the French Alps. That's why they're the Alpines. They are excellent producers. Typically, animals that are in good health. Just for me, I don't have an affinity either way for them. I don't dislike them, but it's not one that I'm just dying to have. We did have a student one time that had an Alpine on campus because she lived in a housing development, and we let her keep her Alpine on campus. But they're not. They are great producers. They're just not the same type of personality as what I like to see in the animals that we have on campus. Here's the La Mancha. Remember, we do have a couple of La Manchas on campus. La Manchas are pretty large breeds of animals, and obviously they've got those weird looking ears. They look like their ears were chopped off before they were even born. But they can be lots of different colors. You probably remember Helki was brown and white, and then you've got Cha Cha, who's black, and she's kind of got tan on her feet and some of her points on her face. The La Manchas can be all different colors, and it's literally just those ears that's going to help to identify them uh, compared to other types of breeds. Um, these were actually originated in the U.S., but they were created from Spanish breeds that were imported into the West Coast. So they are an American breed, but they do have a Spanish influence to them. And again, we do have several La Manchas down at the barn. Tend to be a larger framed goat than what you see with the Oberhaslis that we have. My children would call these the devil goats. Nigerian dwarfs are adorable when they're born because they're teeny tiny and as cute as they can be. However, Nigerian dwarfs, you can see how short this goat actually is. It only reaches this person's knees, like its back reaches this person's knees. They're very short and they're very jumpy, hyperactive, and they're just kind of loud. So anytime any of our students or my personal children have had opportunity to work with Nigerian dwarfs, they call them devil goats, just because they are a little hyperactive and they're kind of hard to work with because of their size. Because you're kind of having to hunch over whenever you're showing a Nigerian dwarf. Um, these were developed in the United States. This is the only breed that is actually a miniature breed as far as dairy goats, but they can come in all different kinds of colors. There is a height restriction on Nigerian dwarfs. They can only be a certain height, and so they do have to measure those whenever they get ready to go into the ring to make sure they're not too big. But they do have a high butterfat content, so if you're looking for a concentrated butterfat content in your milk, then Nigerian dwarf might be a good option. It's just not the option necessarily for us here at school. Nubians are a floppy-eared breed of goat. So if you notice so far, everything that we have looked at has had either erect ears or no ears, as in the case of the La Mancha. The Nubian has got floppy ears, so that's how you're going to be able to tell that one from the other types of goat breeds. The Nubian actually originated in England, and their nose is kind of a convex nose. So if we go back to the picture, you can see how the nose kind of, the bridge of the nose kind of pooches out a little bit there. So that's what we're calling this Roman type of nose. So they have the floppy ears, the Roman nose, and these also have got pretty high butterfat content. The only thing about a Nubian is they are loud. I mean, if there's a Nubian in the barn, you know it because between them and the Nigerian dwarfs, they're yelling at each other all day. And so Nubians and Nigerian dwarfs both can be loud and kind of annoying because the all of the screaming and yelling that they do. But Nubians, good breed. Just we like something that's a little calmer and quieter. Toggenburg is actually a really nice breed, and yeah, I mentioned before that if we got a different breed, I wouldn't mind a Saanen. I also wouldn't mind a Toggenburg. These are pretty goats. These originated in Switzerland. Their hair color is going to be kind of a gray color. These kind of remind me somewhat of the brown Swiss dairy cow. They're kind of the same color patterns there, and both of them did come from Switzerland. These were the first actually purebred dairy goats that were imported into the United States and registered. The National Registry for dairy goats is actually in Spindale. So you think about there's the American Quarter Horse Association and the Angus Association and all that kind of stuff. The American Dairy Goat Association, which is a worldwide, well, a nationwide organization that does all the registry for purebred animals, is actually in Spindale. So, a little bit close to home there. So, a little bit about some dairy breeds, and these are the major dairy breeds that are grown and raised in the United States. So, let's take a look at a couple of other breeds of goats, just so we're not focusing only on the dairy side of things, even though that's mostly what we work with. I did want to show you a couple of other breeds of goats, just so you kind of see the difference in them. Our dairy goats obviously are going to have a dairy appearance to them. You're going to see their bones. You're going to see that they have a big udder. There are meat goats, and the most popular meat goat is this guy right here. You may have seen some of these before. The boar goats, you can see how muscular this animal is as compared to the dairy goats that we were looking at just a few minutes ago. So this is going to be a meat type of animal. These did originate in South Africa. They're going to have that white body and brown head on them. These are fast growing animals. Um, really good carcass qualities, so you're looking at great meat quality whenever you're looking at a boar goat. These are pretty popular as far as people who raise meat goats in our area. And so most of the time, if you see a meat goat farm, you're looking at a boar goat or at least some boar goat influences. So that's your kind of major type of meat goat. The second goat that we're going to look at is really more of a companion type of goat, and this is a pygmy. And this little pygmy goat is probably, I mean, he kind of looks like a little old man with that beard there, and his horns are long enough that you can tell he's got some age on him. But he's tiny, he's small, he's never going to be a very large animal. Typically, these pygmy goats, they are from Africa as well, and normally these are going to be used as companion animals more than anything else. So two different types of goats. You got a meat goat, you've got a pygmy goat. We're going to look at one more type of goat so that you understand that there are lots of different purposes and uses for different types of goats, and they are very popular worldwide. The third type of goat that we're going to take a look at is an Angora goat. And this one almost has got a little bit of a sheep look to it. And so you can probably guess what this one is actually used for. Normally, whenever we think about fiber from animals, we think about sheep. But the Angora goat is going to be a fiber type of animal. So they're actually raised for fiber, and the fiber is going to be, they're going to shear the animals and actually use the fiber in clothing. So these actually originated in Turkey, and this is probably one of the oldest breeds of goats, because when you think about goats all the way back to biblical times, typically you're looking at things like Angoras. So very old breed of goat. So hopefully that helps you to understand a little bit more about the breeds we have, why we chose the breeds that we did, and the different purposes of goats. Because yes, most of our goats are going to be used for dairy purposes. However, there is a tremendous amount of goat meat that is going to be consumed worldwide. There is a lot of use of fiber, not necessarily in the United States, but in some of the Middle Eastern countries, they use a lot of goat fiber. And then again, we also have a lot of people who use pygmies as pets. So goats are very much multi-purpose. It's just that here at Crest, we use them mostly for the dairy reason. So any questions on goat breeds, please make sure that you take the time to ask those, and you will have a quiz on the different types of goat breeds. I've not combined that quiz with anything else because there are so many different types of goats there. So until next time, that is all the breeds that you have to learn for Animal Science 1, and we will start looking at evaluation in the next unit.